Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Isaac Christopher Lubogo. I'm here in Nisten, Germany. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm here with an incredible, wonderful person, a lecturer in an eminent university. She will explain herself. She's a doctor, and briefly tell us about yourself, so we know, so the audience get to know who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Nadja Nicklaus and I'm a general surgeon. I'm working here in Schwäbisch Hall as the head of the bariatric surgery, so for obese people. And I made my education in Germany, in Essen and Bonn at university. And I worked for 14 years at Geneva University Hospitals, where I'm still teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yes, excellent. So this is a person who was a doctorate in surgery, right?
Yes.
And at the same time teaches in university. So a little bit of a professor.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, excellent. We're going to discuss a few things that have to do with obesity because that is your area of specialty, right?
That's right.
Okay, tell me, what is obesity?
Obesity is it's a clear definition. If you take your body weight in kilograms and you divide it through your heat in meters as a square, so you can put it in on a calculator online, try it, and then you will get a value, and you are normal weight about between 20 and 25, and over 25 you are overweight, until 30, and over 30 you are obese.
Whoa. Yeah. Every time people hear this name obesity, they may not really understand the danger that comes with that word. Let me quote something here. The World Health Organization says that it recognizes obesity as a global epidemic. Think about that, as a major public health challenge, according to World Health Organization. And according to them, they say obesity has actually reached epidemic proportions globally, with at least 2.8 million people dying each year as a result of being overweight or obese. Now, I want to understand that in the European context, or perhaps first-class context in terms of countries, but I also want to understand it in terms of the African context, because when you talk about obesity, from where I come from, these are guys who have less than a pound on their bodies. Why should Africa be concerned about obesity vis-a-vis obesity in Europe?
Sorry, say it again.
Why should Africans be concerned about obesity as a problem, as a major epidemic, as opposed to obesity in the European context? What World Health Organization is telling us here. Yes, I want you to understand. I want to understand obesity in terms of the African context vis-a-vis European context, if I may use that.
I think we are humans, we are all the same, so it will be or should be also in Africa a problem, because it's as in Europe or Western countries, it's causing a lot of health problems. Like there is a lot of health problems that are associated with obesity. That is, for example, hypertension, diabetes, problems with cholesterol. So also stroke, cancers are associated with obesity, and so on and so on. So it leads to a shorter lifespan. So that's really the big problem about obesity. Okay.
Obesity, a medical condition characterized by excessive accumulation of body fat. Is that right?
Yes.
So, are you saying, doctor, that having excessive fat is a problem?
It's a problem, of course, because it's not only because it's not a thing about aesthetics or something, but it's proven that too much body fat is leading to bad health conditions. So that's a fact.
Okay, very good. Now, what are the major challenges or the problems that are associated with obesity? I know you mentioned some of them, but if you can be kind to our viewers, maybe you can be a little bit more slow, so you point out a little bit and say, this is, that is, so we can learn. Yes.
Okay. So as I said, there are problems with the vessels in the body, so that leads to arterial hypertension. That can lead to stroke, myocardial infarction, so on and so on. So there are a lot of problems with the heart that are associated with. Other problems might be or are diabetes, so a problem with our glucose metabolism. Diabetes is known to lead to other problems like renal, so problems with the nephral insufficiency, blindness, etc., and so on. Problems with your vessels. People are amputated as a consequence of diabetes, so that's a really big challenge. There are other health problems associated with obesity that are, for example, cancers. It is proven that some cancers are associated with obesity. There's a whole thing, lung problems, etc. and so on. There's a huge list. I can't name it everything, but these are the most important ones.
Okay, I will go through some of the things that I think are important. Causes that are related to obesity, maybe you could explain one by one. One of them is genetics and heredity. Okay. Is that a true fact?
It's a true fact, but it's, let's say, only about 10%. But there are people that in their family also already their parents had problems with obesity, and so it's not the main cause, but it has an influence. That's sure. Yeah.
How about energy imbalance?
You can say that everybody that is obese, there is some kind of energy imbalance. That means that what people are taking in as energy, calories, etc., what they are eating is too much in relation to what they are depending that, so doing sports, moving, etc., are working.
Excellent. And one of the things they say is that the caloric intake exceeds the energy expenditure.
That's what I said. So the calories that you are eating are more than what you are giving off during your daily life.
Excellent. And then another is unhealthy diet. Yes? As a cause?
Unhealthy diet, yes. Of course. Yeah. So it's not only how much you eat, so what you eat. So of course, eating behavior is the most, let's say, yes, it's the most big, I think, reason for obesity, that the diet people have are not healthy.
Okay, and when we talk about unhealthy diet, we're arguing that the diet's high in terms of processed foods, for example, but also sugary beverages, which we may point to, and then the fact that some foods have high calorie in terms of the contribution of the weight that they have on our bodies, right? Another one is lack of physical activity. Yes, that's a bit easier for us to comprehend, but I just wanted us to. Then there's an argument in terms of environmental factors. Do environmental factors also affect?
It's like environment is, let's say, influencing how we eat and how we move. So it has an influence, but if you are like on your iPhone the whole day, of course you're not moving a lot, so that also is physical activity in consequence.
Okay.
But it's not, I think, environmental factors like pollution or something.
Sure.
There is no clear relation, as far as I know.
Okay. Stress and psychological factors.
A lot of people with obesity also have psychological problems sometimes as a reason, because they have problems. For example, they are depressive, so that's perhaps or probably influencing their eating behavior and their physical activity. But also obesity is causing a lot of psychological problems. So people are are obese, and that's why they get depressed, because people are looking at them and say, how do they look? They don't dare to go out anymore. So it's both.
I had a friend in Uganda, an American friend of mine, and one time we had an interaction, and I looked at his wife and said, "Whoa, your wife is fat." In Africa, in Uganda, if you say so-and-so is fat, they'll feel very proud about that. They feel nice. And the husband called me and said, if it was in America, that would be an offense. People don't like to be called fat. And I was like, wait a minute, we want to be, want to feel the weight. Incredible. But anyway, sleep deprivation. Is it a factor also? Sleep deprivation.
People who don't sleep a lot tend to eat more. So that's probably the relation.
Okay.
They compensate by eating.
Oh, whoa. So you guys who sleep a lot, be careful. Medication and medical conditions.
There are some medications as antidepressive drugs that cause also obesity, or can worse obesity. Yes.
Okay. Endocrine disruptors.
Disruptors. There are several endocrine diseases like underfunction of the thyroid gland that can lead to obesity. That's an example, but that is a small percentage, but that can be a reason for obesity. Yes.
Okay, cultural and societal factors.
As you said, perhaps in Africa, it's a cultural thing that obesity is a sign of richness.
Absolutely.
But it's not, let's say, in our Western, and it's not. I also think it's in the time you have enough food, it doesn't make sense anymore. So that should change.
Okay, lack of education and awareness, is it a factor? Lack of education and awareness. You are more like a professor, and tell me that. Do you think lack of education and awareness is also a factor?
Yes, it is. I see this in my daily practice that, of course, there are also professors that have problems with obesity, or well-educated people, but most people, there is an association with less education and obesity, yes.
Okay, parental influences and childhood habits?
Of course, because if your eating behavior, you develop it as a child, so of course or how much you do sports, how much you move, so that's something very important, and that's why there should also we should work on it also in childhood.
Excellent.
People.
Yeah. Okay, let's discuss some of the dangers of obesity briefly. I know you talked some of them, but you talked about cardiovascular diseases as an effect. Well, how do you explain that? Yes, as a danger.
Fat or sugar is destroying or damaging vessels, so that makes the cardiovascular diseases. It explains also diabetes, etc.
Okay.
It's more part of physiological thing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Then I think you mentioned something about diabetes. I remember. I have here quite two types of diabetes they're talking about. Obesity is a major factor for the development of type 2 diabetes. They talk about type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
Yes. You can explain a little bit of that, Professor?
Type 2 diabetes is developing usually not in the childhood, but it can also start as an adolescent, for example. And it's like the body, if you are eating a lot of sugar over years, over 20 years, I don't know, then the body has problems to process the sugar,
right.
And that in the long term you are developing like a diabetes, like an insulin resistance.
Excellent.
Because insulin is the hormone that works to decrease the glucose level in your blood,
right.
And so if you develop this insulin resistance, in the long term you get a type 2 diabetes.
Excellent. So we now understand what type 2 diabetes is. A breakdown, I think, of of the fighting mechanism of the body.
Yeah.
So the inability for the insulin.
To regulate the glucose
level. Right, excellent. Cancer as another challenge in terms of danger. Yes, cancer. How is that? There's arguing that obesity is also associated with increased types of cancer, including breast, colon, and ovarian or pancreatic as well, and kidney cancer.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Studies proving this.
Excellent. And then respiratory disorders was also an aftershock of danger of obesity, where they're arguing that it can lead to sleep apnea and other respiratory disorders due to excess fat around the neck and chest, and also obstruct airways during sleep. Is that right, Professor?
That's right.
Okay, very good. Joint problems is another issue. Is that right?
All people with severe obesity, they have some kind of joint problems because it's aching and there's so much weight to carry, and it can be like only aching, but it's a lot of patients have arthrosis, etc.
I was in Uganda. I sit almost I think 12 hours in one place, morning to evening. I hardly do exercises, and I'm not saying this with a lot of passion or perhaps happiness. I only realized when I was taking a walk in Amsterdam. You've been in Amsterdam, I'm sure. You've been in Amsterdam. Quite a long, distance, very big airport, and I almost collapsed on the way because I just couldn't carry myself out. And I realized that one of the biggest problems I'm doing is because of my body doesn't have perhaps physical exercises, and I'm here sitting down and eating. I was a junk food crazy guy. I would want to mention names like KFC, but I was a KFC guy. Only to realize that when I came here in Europe, that's when people told me every time you go to the bathroom, measure your body weight. And I measured myself, and I don't want to tell you the weight because you may say, oh my goodness. And so I realized that these have got substantive colossal effects on our bodies. And when I came to where I'm seated here, I sneezed, and that impulse, that involuntary impulse that comes when you're sneezing, I switched my back all of a sudden, and only to realize that my back could not go away from the direction I'd taken. I almost screamed. And I only realized how to do with my weight. And my friend, Patrick and Susan told me, wait a minute, all you're going to do is, there's a bike, an electric bike in my house, you're going to do some exercise and need to reduce down on your weight, burn some calories in short. Do you think it's something that is, I see here in Europe, people ride bicycles. Almost everyone has a bicycle. Incredible people. And I was one time having not a debate, but I was listening to one of the renowned professors in our country, Professor Kanyahamba, who was telling a story of a certain judicial officer, Chief Justice, I think, of one of the European countries, who was saying, you guys have problems with that. They had some invites of some judicial officers who were fighting for certain cars, who should drive what car. He said, in Europe, I ride a bicycle to work. And I couldn't understand that. If I rode a bicycle in Kampala or in Jinja, people would say, his life has almost come to an end. Tell me something. Do you think, it's a funny question, but it's a wise question. Do you think exercises, I shouldn't be asking this question, but for the purpose of our audiences, do you think exercises have a lot to do with longevity in terms of proponing our lives?
Of course.
Yes,
of course.
You can explain that a little bit.
But if you want to get rid of your obesity, or even if you're not obese, physical exercise is very important. Otherwise, it's proven that you have to be active and to have to move, and that will increase your health and your life and endurance.
Okay. So other problems have to do with gastrointestinal disorders, reproductive health issues, neurological conditions, and then immune system dysfunctions, and then shortened lifespan, which we just talked about. And I realized I think that has a lot to do. I was talking to Professor Golling, and he told us, we're having a discussion with him. And I think you know Professor Golling.
He's my big boss.
He's your bigger boss. Excellent. Incredible gentleman. Very brilliant gentleman. I think the world should have a bit of more of such people. And so he told us that he looked at the Africans and noticed how gifted these people were. And said the only biggest challenge he could realize with most Africans, and he didn't say this in bad faith, he said this for purposes of comprehending and understanding, is that the inability for majorly Africans to have discipline.
Mhm.
Would you agree with Professor Golling?
Say it again.
The inability of majorly many Africans to have or adapt in terms of discipline.
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
Would you agree?
Yes.
Why?
I can't say.
No, feel free. Yes? Discipline in terms of body behavior, discipline in terms of food, discipline in terms of academics, discipline in terms of everything. I think it's perhaps a bigger picture in terms of discipline. Would you want to paint a little bit of that picture?
As I say, Susan is an example that
Go ahead.
she is living here and adapting to Europe. So that's a proof.
Okay, that's partly the proof, but I think the point I wanted to underscore is the fact that we have to cultivate discipline in terms of what we eat, right? From where I come from, we could put food for you here, and it's not a question of budgeting of how many pieces of matoke I would have. It's a question of cooking as much as what is available. Whatever is remaining, you simply throw away. Here, there's a lot of culture in terms of discipline. You only perhaps cater for what you're going to eat and you're going to finish. When it comes to garbage disposal, I saw something very different. Your garbage is sorted. There's bio garbage, there's plastic garbage, there's those little things that speak 1,001 words, which we are, I don't know why, unable to do from where I come from. I noticed that many of these things that we can co-opt and adapt. It's not a question of reinventing the wheel anymore. It's a question of learning from, benchmarking from countries like Europe and be able to help our country. And that's what we are doing here. Okay. All right. Something interesting that I'd like you to follow up on is reasons why obesity is considered a global threat. They argue in terms of health impact because it has an effect on the health. Is that right? In terms of our health, well-being, obviously, I think you tried to explain that. Then they argued in terms of the economic burden, perhaps that it lays on nations. I know here you have welfare systems that are a little bit better than ours there, to the extent that almost every individual is given welfare, as opposed to ours there where we majorly thrive on God's mercies in many of the things that we do.
But it's clear that people with severe obesity, they often can't work anymore like before, and they are even unable to work. So that, of course, it's also a big economic problem. Okay,
excellent. Now, as a person who was engaged in this specificity of obesity, how can diet, for example, help someone, prepare them or fashion them in a substantive, organized health body, if I may use that word? What can someone do to prepare their bodies to become healthy? Because they're not getting into healthy foods and stuff like that. So, as an expert in obesity, what advice? Someone has come to you, I am obese, I'm having this challenge. How do you prepare them to navigate from this other negative to the positive one?
So it's first of all dietary means. So they have to do diets and also under dietary health instructors. So you can't do it just for yourself. And you have to get dietary advice. And the second point is physical activity, so doing sports. Okay, so some of the things they talk about is satiety and portion control, where nutrient dense foods such as fruits and vegetables, or even whole grain or lean proteins, and then energy balance, then aspect to do with nutrient intake, and then blood sugar control. Now we're moving in a .com era where almost even our watches are able to tell what's our pulse rate, what is our sugar levels. I think that also becomes important. And then metabolism control, healthy gut microbiota in terms of rich fiber for diverse plants, and then reduced inflammation, where we're talking about nutrients, dense foods, and then long-term sustainability. Those are some of the things that I think are good for purposes of consolidating our bodies to prepare ourselves in terms of tomorrow. Now, talking about healthy foods, I'm trying to write a book that has to do with GMOs, genetically modified foods, which come from Europe majorly. We don't have many of them in Africa. US, I think.
Oh, US. Okay, there you go, US. Mr. Who? Mr. What's the guy's name now?
It's another field, but that doesn't have any influence on I think, obesity.
Okay,
So
but the reason we're talking about that in terms of how do you perhaps get better of it in terms of helping your body to be as a good supplement for substantive foods that are healthy. Good living, in other words, or healthy living for that purpose. And here before me, I made a display of certain foods, and we just had beautiful meal here prepared by Dr. Susan and Engineer Patrick, and also the computer expert Joshua, and wonderful foods over here. I know you're not a nutritionist, but from your advocacies in terms of good feeding, because if you mess up here, then the bodies are going to have problems. Not so. In terms of if you feed badly, the replication is colossal. These are salads, right?
That's salad, and that's very healthy, so you can eat a lot. So that's not a problem. High fiber, no calories, so nearly no calories, and that's very good as well.
This is what? This is a mango, is it?
Mango. It's a little bit sweet, but it's not. It's okay. So this plate is perfect. This looks perhaps healthy as well, but it's a fruit shake, and that contains a lot of fructose, so natural sugar, but there's also a problem.
Okay, in case it's natural sugar.
Because there's a lot of sugar inside.
Okay, so you're saying that anything that has a lot of sugar is a danger to the body.
Yeah.
And would you mention some specific things that many of us are interested in that may have a danger?
Yeah, we talked before about soft drinks, so Coke, Fanta, etc. That's really a big problem because this is all contains a lot of sugar.
Ice cream?
As well.
KFC?
Bad.
Bad. McDonald's?
Very bad.
Very bad. Oh, goodness me.
Bread. If you eat a lot of bread, also that's a problem. It contains nearly also only sugar.
Okay, there you go, guys. So many of you guys like these things, but there we go. We have these things that affect our lives in terms of our bodies. But listen, there is something here that they talk about health bread, I think. I know you're German, right?
Yes.
Yes, German is known. One of the things that just known in German is
because
doing bread.
that's whole grain, I think. So it's not. If it would be white bread, that would be worse. But still, if you let's say bread, it's containing a lot of sugar. We need sugar to live, but it's all a question of volume, amount. So if you eat every evening a lot of bread, then you will get also a problem with.
So in Africa, we have majorly white bread. So now I see here you have this whole grain or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know,
grain,
Vital and Feed, something like that. And then there's this label here, which I got to know that even on the labels, you indicate the percentage or the level of nutrition that is involved. If there's a green A, that's okay. Yeah. So the levels are explained there. So the brighter the color, the more nutritious it will be. So if you're going to, we don't have this. I don't think we have this yet in Africa in terms of writing this. But perhaps that's something we need to benchmark as a nation. But the doctor here is kind enough to explain to us that some of these things that green and non-genetically modified are quite good for our bodies in terms of enhancing, and less sugar is definitely good for us. So we have to. So would you advise an advocacy for people to go vegetarian?
I can't do this generally. Of course, it's good not to eat too much meat. Okay, that's something that's known, but you don't have to be very vegetarian to eat healthy. That not.
Okay, so
but you should reduce your meat intake.
Okay, so a little bit reduce on the meat because it probably has effects like gout and stuff like that. Those diseases that probably may come out of it.
Yeah, and also meat contains a lot of fat, and you know that if you eat pork and a lot of red meat, it's not very healthy. Okay,
excellent. So we're talking about fruits and vegetables. A good area to go. Whole grain is a good area to go. Lean proteins is a good area to go. Healthy fats. And when we talk about healthy fats, what fats are we talking about here?
Like fish.
Yes, fish.
Fish is very healthy. Yeah.
Like salmon.
Yeah.
And then mackerel, and then sardines. I'm told they provide for what they call omega-3 fatty acids, so which are beneficial to the heart and the brain. That's important. And then dairy and dairy alternatives as well. And then nuts and seeds. We have some nuts here with some G-nuts here from Uganda. Those are nuts from Uganda I came with, brought my friends here. So we have legumes and beans as well. And then herbs and spices. And then hydration, of course, plenty of water. Moderation and variety, limit processed foods as well. So those are some of the advices that I think are important to understand. So we should avoid sugary snacks and sweets, avoid sugar sweetened beverages, avoid processed and fried foods. Is that right? And where you come from, people like fries, but it's a danger in terms of our health, in terms of what repercussions may have. And then reduced processed and fried foods, of course, and then highly refined grains as well. Have an issue with our bodies. And then excessive salty snacks, I'm told, is also another issue. Canned and processed soups, frozen convenience meals, and then artificial trans fats as well. So these are some of the things that we have to remember to avoid. Also, alcohol in excess. Is that right?
That's right.
Why is that? Where I come from, people like
Contains-
doing the thing, like taking alcohol.
But it contains also, in terms of obesity, a lot of calories, so alcohol, and all the other problems coming with.
Okay, highly processed snacks, food fats, for example, fast foods, high sugar breakfast cakes, and then commercial baked foods as well. Canned and bottled sweetheart beverages, and then frozen desserts, and then large portion sizes. And then excessive caffeine, of course, and then fats and hydrogenated oils, and low nutrient, high, calories. So something academic. Please take this in the academic context. Tell me something about prostate cancer. Is it an offshoot of bad food as well?
Prostate cancer?
Yes.
I don't know of any relationship, but I'm not a urologist surgeon, so I can't say actually.
Okay, in the affirmative. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I was relating that is that some are arguing that also the body's inability to exercise could also have accumulated, I don't know what you call it, the medical term. That's where I was coming from in terms of understanding that perhaps our bodies are created to have that kind of exercise. So I'm grateful in terms of what we've discussed. If you are being given an opportunity to come down to Africa, bearing in mind what you've learned from Europe, you are quite a distinguished person. You head a whole department or by yourself. You are a professor teaching in universities. You're a doctorate holder in the field of or in your own right, an authority of sorts. What advice would you give to our viewers in terms of a takeaway? What takeaway would you give to them? They are looking at you, and you're advising them. This would be your takeaway in terms of the discussion of obesity. You can look in the camera.
I would advise African people that they should eat more of the foods they have that grow in their country, like nice fruits, like nice vegetables. So I think they have a lot of opportunity to eat healthy and do more sports, probably, if it's possible. Make more passes by walking. That also gives a lot of opportunity to move more. So that would be my advice.
Excellent. And that's a very interesting argument when you make that proposition in terms of redefining our testimony. The Word of God says, from a Christian perspective, that my people perish because of lack of understanding. The lack of knowledge is a big problem. So we have just been blessed by having this discussion with the distinguished lady here. So we're grateful to God. Is there anything you'd want to say in passing, particularly? Something that's on your heart? Maybe I've not asked about it, but you feel this, Isaac, was important, but you left it out.
I think I said everything.
Okay, so you did. God bless you and thank you. Greetings from Germany. Thank you.